Hey, everybody. I am Dr. Andy Roark, and this is the Uncharted Podcast. Guys, we've got a great one today. We got a question from the mailbag that is super common, and it's basically, how do I support somebody who's having real hard issues in their personal life? We have got a lead tech who is fairly new to the job, but after they got on board and they got up and going, and about 6 months in, they are having something going on in their personal life, and they don't want to talk about it. And we don't know what it is, but their behavior is changing and they're starting to make mistakes and the team is starting to suffer for it. How do you manage somebody when they've got some significant overwhelm, but it seems to be coming from their personal life and they don't want to talk to you about your personal life? Can you be compassionate and still hold people accountable? Spoiler alert, the answer is yes, you can. We'll tell you how. So anyway, let me tell you, Stephanie Goss crushes this episode. She's got a number of just great phrases that she uses. So I just want to call out to you. Stephanie just really has got some fantastic ways that she says things. Really good episode in that regard. So be ready to jot down some ways to say things in this episode. Anyway, I like this episode a lot. Guys, I hope you'll enjoy it. Let's get into it.
And now, the Uncharted Podcast.
And we are back. It's me, Dr. Andy Roark, and the one and only Stephanie, Let Me Love You Goss. I imagine, the cartoon little girl that's squeezing the cat, and the cat's desperately, trying to get away, and, it's that. That's
me.
You.
Let me give you hugs. Let me love you.
Let me love you. Yeah.
How's it going, Andy Roark?
It's good. It's good. I've been on TV recently. I got invited to go and film what I did not know was the first episode of The Experts on Dog TV. And they were like, do you want to come down to Atlanta and film this show? And I looked at my calendar and I did not have anything on that day. And I'm like, I just drive to Atlanta. And I was like, sure. And so I drove down and it was a lovely time. I did some TV in the past and I just swore it off. I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I have historically not liked TV very much.
Yeah.
And this was a really great experience. I had a really good time.
Not surprising.
Surprising?
Didn't have dog TV on the bingo card, but
dog
also
TV.
Not I can totally see you doing that. That makes perfect sense.
I'm excited about the idea of dog TV. I'm like, How does this
Who
watches this? And how does this work?
I'll have to keep my eyes peeled for the announcement on social when I'm sure it's ready to come out.
Well, it comes out on June 4th, and they're going to show it 30 times in the first week, apparently. I know, I was like, you're showing basically it sounds to me like
Andy's
it's the Andy Roark network. Yeah. I like the direction this network is headed in.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
Yeah. So we're there. I'll tell you though, I was there. And it's called The Experts, and it was me, then a rotating cast, and then they were, I'm not in all the episodes. I'm in half the episodes. And so there's me and sort of rotating cast, but it was like me and then Lisa Rodosta, the vet behaviorist, is there. And she's great. I like her a lot. And they always had Victoria Stillwell, the dog trainer, was there. Yeah. And there was sort of another dog trainer. And then we did another episode. It was me and Lisa and then two oncologists. And so it sort of rotated through. But I was thinking about it later. I was like, if anything holds this show back, it's the lack of banana people. It's the fact that they got all sane, normal people on the show together. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's probably a mistake. Yeah. I feel like that's probably a mistake. I feel like they should have put a couple of veterinarians on this show and then unleashed, some internet influencer, raw food.
I mean, it's entirely possible that's still coming. That's the magic of editing, right? That's what happens with reality TV.
They're going to edit in the villain. No.
I will definitely keep my eyes and ears peeled for that. That's going to be amusing.
Yeah, I'm gonna pitch. I feel empowered now. I'm gonna start pitching TV shows to Dog TV. Look.
Oh gosh.
You ever see Jerry Springer? That could be me.
Hey, Dog TV, just say no. Just say no. It's a complete and full sentence.
Up next, we have a guest who says the only dog worth having can fit in your pocket. Bam! Now we got some fireworks. I can work with this.
What happens when veterinary professionals get a doodle despite themselves? That would make a great episode.
It's just you'll see that episode, it's just a black silhouette of me going, yeah, I know, I wanted a golden retriever, but My wife said that they were the same thing,
instead.
and I knew they weren't, but I just kind of went along with it, and it didn't seem like a big deal at the time.
Here we are.
And now here we are. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Oh man. How about you?
I am good. Things are really busy. It's, we're getting ready for late spring, getting ready for early summer over here. The clinic is crazy busy and everybody's just, just going along. Kids are almost done with school. It's time for summer vacation. It's about to be that insane. I feel like you blink and it's September. I feel like that every year, but I feel like as a parent whose kids are getting older, summer goes faster and faster. And I had somebody ask me the other day about coming out and doing a visit at their clinic. And between my schedule and the kids' schedule, I was like, September?
Yeah.
Question mark? Because it's crazy. But things are good. It's busy. We got a great mailbag episode. This one is a little bit of a head scratcher. I think it's one you and I both read it and we're like, do we have the whole story here? But I think that it's a good one to talk through because I think it's a situation that repeats itself in veterinary medicine regularly. And so it's someone who's got a team member who was promoted to a leadership position and they've been in the position for about 6 months. And the person who wrote us the mailbag said, I feel like we went through all of the normal kind of onboarding and set expectations, and we've been having weekly meetings. We have a team member who needed some retraining when it came to our treatment plans. And so this leader was responsible for retraining this team member. And the team member came, I'm assuming this is a practice owner or practice manager who wrote in. The team member came to them and said, hey, I am super upset. I feel like this person has been pushing me way too hard. I'm overworked. I'm overwhelmed. And so this leader sat down with their other leader to say, hey, what's going on? And they feel like they've tried to probe and they're just getting the cold shoulder and they're not getting engagement and interaction. And so their ask was, how do I get this leader out of their hump? I asked them to take some time off. I've asked to help take things off their plate, but I feel like they are drowning in work. And as a result of that, they're pushing team members too hard. They're alienating people. They're making mistakes too, silly mistakes. And so this leader who wrote us is I want to help, but I don't know where I go from here. I don't, what do I do? What did I miss? Where do I go? And so I thought that this was a super interesting question. I'm looking forward to hearing your take on things.
Yeah, totally. So summarizing this, we've got this person who was brought up to a leadership position. They were onboarded, and then they apparently. So the comment was made here that the only thing this person will say is they've got a lot going on in their personal life, and then they have clammed up after that.
Clam up.
So then they said, "I've got a lot going on in my personal life. We've seen a behavior change, and now the person doesn't want to really talk further about it, and now they're overwhelmed and they're making mistakes." So that's kind of what we're looking at. All right. I like this a lot. I think it's a really good, thing to talk about from a headspace standpoint.
Okay.
And so you and I get questions all the time about how do I make someone change their behavior? How do I get them to do better? How do I make this person change? Mm-hmm. And I always take a particular interest if the person's got something going on in their personal life. And so it's hey, this person's got something on in their personal life. And it might be illness. It might be mental illness. It might be their marriage is dissolving. It might be that they're just, I don't know, they're just tired. They're staying out late and not getting enough sleep. But they've got something going on in their personal life and it's affecting their work life. And so the big thing for me is, and I think people should just hear this, employees do not need to tell you about their personal life. They don't have to tell you about it. And honestly, it should be easier for you if they don't, right? Again, you cannot pry into their personal life. The gold standard for leadership, I think, is that you just go ahead and get used to the idea of operating as if you don't know what's going on with people in their personal lives. They are a black box. It's have you watched the show Severance? Do you ever watch Severance? I love it. I am totally into Severance. So Severance is a show on Apple TV, and the second season just came out. Do you know what it is? Are you familiar with the premise?
No.
All right.
No.
So, all right. So in Severance,
drop it on me.
The whole idea. Okay, cool. The whole idea is there is a medical procedure that people can have done so that when you go to work, your personality is split And so as soon as you walk into the door at work, you regain consciousness there and you have no memory of your outside life. You don't remember anything except being at work. And then when you leave work, you have no memory of what you did at work. You were just boom. And so essentially, imagine you drive up, you park your car, you walk into the vet clinic, there's like a sound, and the next thing you know, you're walking out to your car and the day is over and you're driving home. It's as if you don't have to work, right? Like you just show up and the next thing you know, you're right.
Okay.
You would feel physically tired, but that was it. And so there's a company, it's a mysterious company, and they have these severed workers. And so you see these people on the outside and you see the people on the inside and they're like, what is our job? They don't know. The work is mysterious and important is what we're told. And so anyway, it's this really kind of, I like that type of science fiction. So anyway, I like it.
Okay.
But essentially, you kind of need to manage people like they're severed employees who show up and like the outside world doesn't exist and you're just going to receive them kind of as they are and you have to kind of work with them. And people go, oh, that's so hard. And we do want to see people as humans, right? As whole humans.
Yeah.
But if you can just assume that everyone is fighting a battle, that you don't know anything else, and especially if you see that someone is struggling, right? Everyone's fighting a battle. We're not their therapists. We're not private investigators. We just need to know that people are struggling and we're going to try to support them. But if you can do that, then you can get yourself into a much easier place of saying, I'm going to run my struggle package. And the struggle package is basically, we're going to sit down with this person. We're going to make them feel seen. We're going to talk to them about what's going on. And we're going to be very compassionate. And also, remember, we have to balance the needs of the individual against the needs of the rest of the team and the pet owners and the pets and the practice and ourselves and our families. And so I'm going, okay, I can be concerned and compassionate, and also I can also hold you accountable to do your job. And so the way I've been playing with this recently, I think you'll like this. I haven't told you this before. All right. Okay. So if you're a medical leader, you get to be the coach, the cheerleader, and the referee. You get to be every part of the game except the player, right? So you're the coach. As soon as I talk sports, Stephanie starts yawning. I immediately, she's like, oh, it's a sports metaphor.
I mean, it's sport ball. So player, coach, and referee.
Okay, so hold on. So coach, cheerleader, and referee, not the player.
Not player.
All right, so here's the thing.
This is what happens when you talk sport ball. It just
this is why I'm like, why don't we use more sports metaphors? And now I remember why. Okay, so hang with me. Okay, so you get to be the coach. You get to train this person. You get to coach this person. Like, and when I say coach, I mean the Uncharted type of coaching of actually working with them, giving them feedback, sort of working with them, trying to grow them, mentor them. That's coaching. So you get to be the coach. You get to be the cheerleader. You get to celebrate them. You get to appreciate them. You get to give positive reinforcement. You get to pat them on the back. You get to tell them that they matter. You get to do that. That is inbounds. That's 100% in your role. And this is important. You are the referee. You don't get to be the referee. You have to be the referee. You are not working against your employees. You are not rooting against them. You are not setting them up to fail. You're not doing any of those things. But as a medical leader, it is your job to explain what the rules of the game are, and to set clear expectations for success. If people are not allowed to yell at each other at your practice, you're the referee. And if someone yells at someone else, you need to blow the whistle and you need to intervene. If part of being on the team means you are not allowed to send the wrong medications out the door, then you need to do your job and be the referee and say, this is not okay. And it is 100% acceptable to be worried about someone or to feel compassion for someone, and also to say, you cannot be allowed to send the wrong medication out the door, right? Full stop. And so I can be compassionate and also blow the whistle and be the referee. And I really think the referee is a key part of managing people. I am not the opposing team. I am not taking things away from you. I am not trying to judge you as a person or your value. I want you to succeed. But it is my job to say, this is how the game is played. This is what the rules are. This is what you need to do to be able to continue to be on the field and lay those things out. And so if you buy into that, the coach, the cheerleader, and the referee, you understand what your job is. Now, there is a huge gaping hole in this game, and that's the players. And you are not the player. You don't get to be the player. And I see people who try to be the player. They're like, oh man, she's struggling, so I'll just do her job for her. I'll just jump in here and do the job. And I go, You're not a player. You're the leader. You get to be all these other things.
Yep.
And I think one of the things that leaders really struggle with is the realization that they're not allowed to be the player. There's so many people who were great doctors, so they became medical directors and then area medical directors.
Right.
And it so hurts them to not be able to grab the scalpel and jump in there and start playing the game.
In surgery. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with the assistants or the technicians. And they become the lead technician. Then they become the practice manager. And they're like, let me just take some dogs back for you. Let me just do some cat appointments. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, my friend, you're not a player anymore. You have to stay on the sideline and be the coach, the cheerleader, the referee.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I think for a headspace standpoint, from me, that was always really important. You're not the player. This person who's got a lot going on in their personal life, they are the player. They have to play the game. You can't make them play it. All you can do is cheerlead and coach, and then you have to call the game as you see it. You can't have somebody on the field. You can't have somebody on your team that is going to be toxic for the team, that is going to hold the team back, that is going to make mistakes that undermine the team and their ability to serve the patients and provide care. And so anyway, I think for our writer, I have to say those things to you as a headspace standpoint to get you into a good, healthy place of you can be compassionate and also blow the whistle, and a foul is a foul and we have to call it.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And my take was going to be a little bit less sport ball, but nonetheless, the same result though, right? Because I think from a leadership perspective, it's really important for us to wrap our brains around something that a lot of people, especially on the internet, don't seem to understand, which is two things can be true at the same time. You know, we live in this world of extremes and we get into these shouting matches. See it a lot on the internet where, you know, something happens and it's like this person or this thing is more important than the other. Well, they can both be important at the same time.
Yeah.
And this is that same thing. It is, you can care about your team. You can want the best for her. You can want to help support her. You also can hold her accountable at the same time. And so I think for a lot of us as leaders, to your point, especially those of us who came up through the trenches and through the team, support in our mind often equals saving.
Yeah.
So you can't do it. Let me step in and take over for you. I will save your bacon. I will help you out. I will have your back. But when you're a leader, support does not necessarily equal saving. It's really tempting to want to fix it for them, especially when you care, right? Like, especially for those of us who are caretakers, that's our nature, to see the problem, to feel like I am a solution. Let me be the solution to the problem.
Yeah.
But when you rescue someone from something that's their responsibility, especially in this case where you have a new leader who is supposed to be learning and growing and trying to find their footing as leader because they've only been in this position for 6 months. When you jump in and rescue her from things that you've told her are her responsibility, you are unintentionally taking away her agency. You're taking away her ability to learn and grow. And you have to push on yourself to remember that your role is support, not carrying her.
Well, so I think you're spot on. I think you're also enabling that behavior too. You know what I mean? And like, I hate to put it that way, but you are sort of enabling it. I think you're really spot on. And I also want to jump back to what you said earlier. I expect that people who come up in vet medicine will lean towards compassion. I expect 100%. Them to want to lean towards sort of saving people. And that's why I try to make this point really clearly is you can't make people do their job, but you have to hold them accountable. I want that to be difficult for people, right? You know, there's this sort of belief that, you know, I can teach you to be a good doctor, but I can't teach you to be kind. Mm-hmm. You know, I can teach you to be a good manager, but I can't teach you to be kind. I would rather you be kind and me have to say to you, look, we need some boundaries here. Right. Than being like, hey, look, you need to empathize a little bit. And so I'd much rather be on that side. So anyone who's like, oh, I'm bad at this, I want you to feel sort of seen and validated. It's not easy, and I don't want it to be easy. If you ever get to the point where you're like, look, I don't give a crap, just do your job, that's not a good place to be, and I don't want us to get there. But we need to be a little bit towards that, or else we just absorb the pain and the frustration of our staff with no actual power to help them or get them to do anything. And so that's where I don't want us to be.
Yeah. I think the last thing from a headspace perspective for me is it's a two-parter, right? Which is the first piece of it is promoting somebody doesn't equal readiness. And so it is possible that you promoted her, but she wasn't ready. And 6 months in is kind of prime time for hitting that wall because they're getting their feet under them. And if she does have stuff going on in her personal life that is contributing to her stress levels, the signs, the things that you're seeing, the head nods, the withdrawal from the team, the quietness, the cold shoulder, those aren't necessarily attitude problems. Those are stress symptoms, right? And so don't make the mistake of her shutting down, and don't make the mistake of thinking her shutting down is her being insubordinate or not wanting to do the job, right? This might have nothing to do with the job itself. It doesn't mean you made a bad call either in promoting her as a leader, because your job as a leader is to give her the opportunity to move beyond this. Now, if she doesn't figure out how to learn and grow and wobble and find her footing, then the end result may be that it's not the right time or place for her to be in that position. But again, that still doesn't mean that you made the wrong call. The leadership journey is often, a twisty turny. Sometimes we double back on ourselves before we move forward. And so I think down with her and having a conversation, but for yourself, to our writer, getting clear in your head, like, what here do I have responsibility for? Like, did I give her all the tools she needed? And then looking at how can you treat her with empathy and kindness? And to your point, still hold her accountable. So what does that look like? And then sit down and from when we get into action steps in a minute, like, how do we look at this? Part of it is sitting down and saying, look, the thing that matters the most is what happens next. How do we move forward from here, right? Nothing other than a team member being upset and feeling like they're getting pushed too hard. Nothing catastrophic has happened. And silly little mistakes are starting to happen. And so now's the time before a big one happens to get in front of it and have the conversation and say, hey, these little things are happening. This is not like you. Yeah. How can I support you?
I think you're spot on. Let's pause here because I feel like you just ran right into the first action step for me. I really love where your head's at. Let's take a break and we'll come back.
Sounds good.
All right. So when we were sort of wrapping up Headspace, you said, let's talk about this when these are small mistakes before a big mistake happens.
Yeah.
One of the big green flags that I sort of see waving that I head for in situations like this is whenever you have a behavior change, that should serve as an easy-ish place for you to engage in a conversation. Now, if you have somebody who's just continue to struggle and continue to struggle and continue to struggle, for me, that's much harder to just really engage with them because they're not doing well, but they haven't been doing well. And so it's a fairly easy conversation for me to go in and say, hey, something's different. Like, you're making mistakes and that's not like you. And that's a great, I love that opening. And again, it's always just say it when it's true, but that's a great opening to have a candid conversation that doesn't feel like they're failing. It doesn't feel like they're a monster or you're disappointed. It's just, hey, I notice your behavior is changing. I'm seeing some mistakes from you that I almost never see. Can you tell me what's going on? Like, help me understand how this is happening. Where's your head at? And so that's the type of opening thing that I will use. But do you agree on that, on jumping on the behavior changes?
I think you need to set aside the what's wrong, right? Because if we start by talking about what's not going right, she's already shut down and withdrawn to a degree. Mm-hmm. And so if you dive in and you're like, let's talk about the mistakes that are happening, you're not going to get anywhere because our human nature is to retreat further, right? So the way that you create that psychological safety, like you said, is to connect with them as a person. And whether it's, I'm seeing changes in your behavior and I'm worried about you, whether it's like things seem to be really heavy for you right now.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing, I want to go back to something you said earlier, which is it's not our job as leaders to be their therapist.
Right.
But it is our job to support them. And so I get asked this a lot, like, how do I do that? Like, what does walking that line look like? And one of my favorites is to say, you don't have to tell me everything or even anything, but I want you to know that I'm here for you and I'm in your corner. And then you shut up and you wait and see and you let them choose. If they choose to open up to you, great. If they choose to not tell you things, it's also great because you have the opportunity to then move forward in a check-in that's not about the performance. It's about how you're doing as a person, right? Is everything okay at home? Is there anything we can do to support you here at work to make your life easier? It's not about the what's wrong. It's about her as a person. And then you can, if they open up, great. Maybe I've sat in those conversations where then someone has opened up and where I thought we were going to go is a 180 from where we wound up going because of what they shared with me. Also, sometimes they choose not to, and that's okay too. Because then the follow-up becomes, okay, we've done a check-in. You've told me that you're okay. What are you seeing? And this is where it gets into the performance, but in a gentle way. Like, you seem quieter than normal lately. You haven't seemed like yourself. You haven't really been talking to any of the other team members, right? This is not about her as a person. This is about the behaviors and what you're seeing. And so you want to figure what you want to figure out. You mentioned that you've been feeling really overwhelmed. I'm starting to see, I noticed a couple of mistakes that are uncharacteristic of you. The mistake isn't the big deal. I'm just worried that maybe there's a pattern and there's something else going on that we should talk about, because it's not like you to make mistakes like this.
Yeah.
Those kind of things to let them know that you're listening, and also you're seeing changes in them, and you've specifically named the pattern, but in a gentle way.
I like that a lot. I love speaking in specifics is always important. This is what I see, and this is what has happened, or this is where I'm seeing potentials for concern, things like that. And so you can be compassionate, you can be kind, and you can be curious. And again, when I say being curious, that doesn't mean trying to dig into their personal life. And I really like the way you said that. I thought it was great language around, you don't have to tell me anything that's going on in your personal life if you don't want to. I need to understand, here at work, how are you feeling? How can I support you? What are you seeing? These are the behaviors I'm seeing. I think that that's really important. And you do need to be able to speak in specifics. If I had you come into the office, Stephanie, and I'm like, yeah, you're just not acting like yourself. You just seem kind of off. It's so subjective. And, and it's going to make you feel defensive, and I can't really articulate it. And so I really would like to try to be as specific here as I can be. In a way, the mistakes make this conversation easier, because I can point to them and say, hey, look, this person got left in an exam room and they were really upset. And, that was in your case, or that was under your, umbrella or whatever. But that gives me something that I can sort of talk to and try to say, again, what are you seeing here? What are your concerns? How can we support you? What needs to happen so that we can make these changes? And so I want to talk about as much as I can the specifics of kind of what's being done. I want to be gentle, but this is a knob that I will dial up over time. I want to talk about the impact that these behaviors are having. It's like, hey, I know that, you have a right to be quiet if you want, and not to talk to people. The impact is that there are some people who are used to you talking a lot and being really jovial. And I think that there's some concerns that you're angry at people, or that you don't want to work with them, and that's how this is being perceived. I always like that as a good way to frame things. It's not you're making the rest of the text feel bad. It's some of the other people are perceiving your behavior in this way. I'm not saying you mean it to be that way, but that's how it's sort of being seen. And that can help talk again about the impacts, because ultimately the impacts of the behavior, that's what I'm managing. Right? Like, I can't manage how you feel. I can't manage what's going on at your personal life. It's my job to recognize the impacts of your behavior and to try to manage those impacts. And so specific examples of what's being done or what we're seeing, and then gently into sort of the impacts of how this is affecting other people. And ideally, when I'm looking about these impacts and things, I want to start subtly setting the table for how we're going to measure progress going forward. And so I want this person to get better. How am I going to know that they're getting better? How am I going to know that they're improving? And this may be something that I share in the first meeting. It may be something I kind of watch for a little while. But ultimately, if it's really how they're going to be held accountable, I want to say to them and say, hey, look, I cannot have another crying employee in my office this week who says that you were mean to them. Like that cannot happen, And so
I think that that's a really important bridge, because that's when I said two things can be true at the same time. Accountability still comes into play, right? Like they can have stuff going on and they still have to do their job. And so I think the next step after you name the pattern or you talk about the behavior you're seeing is to clarify what's non-negotiable. And so, for me, I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm not asking you not to make mistakes. I am asking and requiring that you communicate about them. Mm-hmm. Or it's okay to struggle. It's not okay to disappear. It's not okay to not talk to any of your colleagues when you're here. We need to talk, and head nods and grunts, or, people feeling like they're ignored because they're getting no physical response from you when they talk to you is not okay, right? It is really important to make it clear that those kind of behaviors don't protect her. You are on her side, but you need her to come to the table too, right? And I think that is an important bridge, because then you can help her by creating the plan. How are we going to move forward from here? But you've laid out what your expectation is when it comes to how she engages with you, with the team, at work in general. And I think that that's the bridge between those two things being true at the same time. That's how you walk across to the middle. Because I think I'm with you. The next step is, what is the plan? How do we move forward from here? What does this look like? And this is where, going back to what we talked about in the headspace, you're not saving her by jumping in and doing the thing. You're pulling her out of the deep end, but doing it with some structure, right? And that could look a bunch of different ways. Do you reassign some of her duties? And if you do, it's a temporary thing. It's like, hey, let's take some of this off your plate. Is she struggling with training because she can't focus right now? Like, this is where in the conversation, you get information that hopefully allows you to do a root cause analysis and help figure out what's actually going on and what's causing the problems at work. But then you have the ability to help her put together a plan that gives her some space to work on the things, but also sets a timeline for check-ins and what you expect progress to look like.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that is a lesson that you and I have both learned, maybe painfully as leaders, is when we take things away from people, it's usually done with good intentions. And so this is a space where I've, with the best of intentions, looked at my team and said, oh, you're drowning. Let me take this from you and help you. And when you take things away from people, that can make them feel, it can backfire, and it can make them feel like you're doing it with the best of intentions. And I've also felt like I got my face torn off as a result of trying to help and take things away from people. And so I would say, just a suggestion from the School of Hard Knocks, ask her if there's things that she loves about her job that are making her happy right now, especially if she's struggling outside of work, and let her keep one or two of those things within reason, right? But find out what are some of the things that you can take that are going to make a big impact to her without feeling like you're just blanket, oh, I think I can take this off of your plate. Involve her in that process, in that conversation.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. I think, what can I do to support you is key. Letting this person, I think you have to be gentle, but you also need to be firm here of, if you've got somebody and they're going to be the lead technician and there's a job description, we need to be clear in the expectation that this is kind of what the job is, and these are the things that kind of need to get done. And I think what I'm hearing you say, Stephanie, so correct me if I'm wrong, are you sort of saying that if you had this person and the onboarding was hard and they were kind of overwhelmed, are you talking about taking some things temporarily away from them that they would then sort of take back after they got their feet under them?
Yes. Like, let's give you some space to get your feet back under you. And then for me, I probably would say, okay, let's see what we can take off your plate. Let's make things a little bit easier if you are feeling overwhelmed. This is a temporary thing. This is what it's going to look like to get through the next 30 days. And then here's what the follow-up looks like, because this is the job, right? And it may not be the right fit for you right now. Let's decide that together, right? But here's what that timeline looks like to kind of take a break and then slowly get your feet back under you. Because it has to work for them as a person, but it also has to work for the team. And I think that's part of being clear about the expectation is it doesn't feel like it's working for the team right now either. And so I'm going to help you. I'm going to support you. And ultimately, we've got to, if you're going to be a leader, like, you've got to be able to do the job. And so this is what revisiting that looks like.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think part of that sort of conversation, and this, I don't know if this is in the first conversation, it really depends on where things are going.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with asking the question, and do it in a kind way of, do you want to take a break from this new role for a while?
Yes.
And again, there's a lot of shame around that. And some people may feel like, if I back down, I'll never get the chance again. And I've just found, if you can ask and say, I don't know that you need this, but would you want to take a break from this new role and sort of go back to your old role for a while and sort of stabilize things? And then they might go, yes, please.
Yes.
You just don't know. Or they can at least sit with it. But if you don't mention that, then some people will not think it's on the table. They will feel like, I am caught in this. I said I would do this job, and now I'm trapped in this job. And so you're giving them an escape hatch. And they might say, look, if I could go back to my old job for 2 or 3 months, that would be really helpful. And I'll get through this thing that I'm dealing with. And I go, okay, I mean, it's worth 2 or 3 months to me to have the right person in the job and a place that they can do the job. But starting to mention that idea of, hey, maybe if this is overwhelming for you and you don't like it, then, maybe you'd step down from this job at least for a while, and we can kind of see what that would look like. Yeah, it's possible that they're just not going to be the right person for the job, and even if they say no, you have already broken the ice on the idea of them not continuing to do this job. And again, that's not something I'm going to talk too much about in our first or second conversation, but if we continue to struggle, the conversations around maybe this is not the right role, or at least not the right time for this role, those would get more direct as we went along.
I agree with that. Like, I think you have the hard conversation if it's needed. Like, you give them the time and space to kind of try some things out. And to your point, I think this is a trial and error. You have to feel it out, because you're going to get information when you ask them about what's going on that may change the course of where this conversation goes. But to your point, if you set the expectation and you're supporting them and you're still not seeing the change in behavior, then I agree with you. And I had watched a mentor engage with a member of my team, and I really loved the way that they said it, and it stuck with me, and I've used it since, which is this still the right role for you right now? Because it puts the power in their court in a way that doesn't feel judgmental. It feels like it could be the right role for you and not the right time. It could not be the right role for you, but that's your decision to tell me what you think. I'm not telling you, I don't think you're the right person for this role right now. You're leaving the door really open. And then I think for me, the follow-up is, what would need to change for you to feel successful? Because if you're seeing and feeling this, my guess is that they're also feeling it internally, and that's probably part of the behavior, is that shame cycle and spiral of, I'm not doing a good job. I'm struggling at home. Now I'm struggling at work. My boss is on my back. It's that feeling, and opening it up again in a positive way. What needs to change? We can help with this. Not what do you need to do differently? Not, it's not about fault. It's what needs to change. What do we need to do differently? And so then I think you listen to what the answers are there, and then you figure out how to go and move it forward. Because to your point, it may get to the point where you have to make the decision for them, but you start gently with how are you feeling? Is this still the right time, right role, right situation? Like, what do we need to change?
I agree. And I think the last part of this for me is go ahead and set the follow-up meeting on the calendar with the person right now. And again, you can set a 30, 60, 90 calendar if you want. I mean, if I'm pretty frustrated, we're going to say, great, this is where we're going to be at 30 days. This is where we need to be at 60, and this is where we need to be at 90. And I'm going to go ahead and schedule those meetings. But some people think I'm kidding when I'm saying schedule a meeting. I'm just like, no, set the meeting and put it on the calendar. And that sends a couple of messages. One of them is, this is an ongoing conversation, and we are going to talk again. And by putting on the calendar, it also holds me accountable, because sometimes I kind of let things slide, or I'm like, she did this thing, but it's not worth calling her in to talk about. And I don't want to escalate it or make it a bigger deal. But also I feel like it should be, it should be addressed. I say, great. Well, we said we'd meet up in 2 weeks. And now when we meet in 2 weeks, I'm going to bring this back up. We're going to talk about where we are, and we're going to keep this thing going. I think a lot of people, especially people who struggle with accountability, I think one of the biggest things that they could do to do a better job of holding people accountable is having meetings with them and then deciding, great, you and I want us to circle back up in 2 weeks and see how things are going. Let's go ahead and plan on that now and put it down. And the person knows they're going to have to meet with you again in 2 weeks. And it just makes that whole accountability process go more smoothly. It's too easy for you to get distracted, or, nothing rises to the level to make you reschedule a meeting. And it's also super easy for the other person to kind of dodge you for a little bit. And and after about 3 weeks, you've kind of forgotten, and then this just kind of goes away. And so anyway, that's the last thing that I would mention too, is we talk about informal documentation. You need to write this down. I'm not saying you're going to write them up for this. Right. But this might be the beginning of a pattern of behavior. Yeah. And you're going to want to say, look, the first conversation we had about this was on August 1st of, whatever year. And since then, we've talked 5 more times over the last year and a half. Yeah. So anyway, just go ahead and start that process.
Yeah, cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, this is a fun one.
Yeah. The challenge of managing people who have complicated things going on in their personal lives, or who bring their personal lives to work, that challenge is not going away. Mm-hmm. And we don't
we're all humans.
We're all humans. Exactly. It will always be that. And we're not therapists, and we don't want to be therapists, but we do want to be compassionate, and we do want to be supportive. And so coming up with those skills that let us thread that needle, I think is really important. And so anyway, if there's nothing else that Stephanie Goss will definitely remember from this episode, it is
the sport ball references.
Sport ball references. Where
cheerleader, coach, referee, not the player.
Not the player.
Look at me go. Yay.
Look at it. Yes. Yeah.
I win the game.
You totally get a gold star for today's podcast. Thank you for that, my friend. I really appreciate you today.
Yeah. Have a good week, everybody.
Take care, gang. And that's what we got. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, if you're like, boy, I love learning how to say things, I love working on my management skills, check out the Uncharted community, guys. The Uncharted membership is your 24/7 connection to people who can always help you figure out how to kind of say things and set things up. We also have our Leadership Essential Certificate, which is all about getting team buy-in, doing effective one-on-ones, coaching and feedback. We've got our conflict management certificate. Both of those are included in your Uncharted membership. We've got our Anchor Fest, which are trainings that the Uncharted team does every single month. And yeah, it's great stuff. We'll learn you up real good over at Uncharted. It's what we love to do. I'd love to see you there. So anyway, check it out. If you have a question for us for the podcast, send us an email at podcast@unchartedvet.com. Guys, take care of yourselves. I'll talk to you later on. Bye.